All right, I am about as sick of Hollywood remakes as the rest of you all, but I want to hear what this young lady has to say. Is another channel that we like on here, Michaela Lasiak. But hey, my computer loves to not load at the most inopportune times. Forget. This is crazy.
I've been hearing a lot of this lately. Why is Hollywood so unoriginal? Why is everything a reboot or a remake? I want to see something new. I can definitely understand where people are coming from. I feel like now every time I want to go to watch a movie or a show, I see a catalog of things that I've already seen before. Recently, we've seen a few remakes like The Color Purple, Mean Girls, those have come out. And there's other things slated to come out in the near future like the Twilight reboot. It's becoming a series, and also the Harry Potter series and the Snow White movie. Like, so much IP is getting recycled, we keep seeing the same characters, and I wanted to explore why. Why is Hollywood always recycling content? I mean, let
me give my idea first. And I don't think it's just Hollywood, but this is everywhere, because even on YouTube people recycle content. The simple answer is it works. It's hard to break new stuff. And while we do see new stuff be revolutionary and it could take over and it could feel like a breath of fresh air, there's so many things that go by the wayside, you know, when it comes to breaking something new. Now, I do think that it is hard to put a spin on something old and make it refreshing and tasteful and all this stuff like that. But specifically in a world where people are counting their pockets more, there's so much grabbing at people's attentions. You know, people's attention spans are shorter, and that could be the same thing as well, tied up in one point. It is good to see familiarity. People are scared and skeptical about a lot of different things. It is good to see familiarity. So in a world full of new, it's good to see something familiar that I can gravitate towards. That's why Power World is such a success. Power World is just the spinoff of Pokemon. And the reason why Power World took off, because I think Power World that last weekend or whatever was the second highest rated game on Twitch, second highest viewed game on Twitch. The only reason why is because it was so familiar to Pokemon. And people love a lot of people love Pokemon. So it was an easy transition to go from Pokemon to Power World. And that's why, but that's because I don't have time, effort, and energy to spend on something totally new. Let me give you something that's familiar but kind of new.
Seen original movies like Everything Everywhere All at Once, Get Out, original shows like White Lotus make waves in our culture and become groundbreaking, memorable films that do really well. Why isn't Hollywood investing in more original projects like that? Or at least, why does it feel that way? Today, I want to have a discussion about remakes, why it's so ubiquitous in Hollywood, and why this actually isn't a new phenomenon as much as it may feel like it, and how even some originals that you love might not be as original as you may think.
And that's true too, and I'm going to let her talk on this, but this isn't necessarily the newest thing. I think what makes this so much different than what I'm about to say, though, is because we recycle themes all the time, especially like the rom-com era of film. We recycle themes all the time. But so what I think is I want her to elaborate on, though, is when we're talking about the exact same IP over and over again, that's where I think things become interesting.
Stay tuned to the end of this video, and I'm pretty sure you'll get a new perspective on how the industry works. Hello there, my name is Michaela Lasiak. Welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back to my YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe. I talk all things film industry. First, I just want to talk about kind of what I've been seeing be produced, like all the new remakes that are kind of slated to come out. We had The Wonka movie based off Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Flop.
Mean Girls, obviously.
Flop.
The Little Mermaid.
Flop.
Ghostbusters.
Flop.
In the TV world, we've seen the iCarly reboot.
Flop.
Just like that, based off Sex and the City.
Flop.
Raven's Home on Disney Channel.
Flop.
Gossip Girl. Pretty Little Liars.
Flop.
Original
Flop.
Sin. I was so surprised to hear that Twilight was getting a series. Like, that's crazy.
Hello?
And they just announced that Wizards of Waverly Place is getting a reboot as well.
Why are there
Disgusting.
remakes? Well, there's a couple reasons why things are remade in Hollywood. One, for nostalgia. Nostalgia brings in viewers, it brings in people to the box office. We even saw that with the Barbie movie. It was an original film, but it was based off of something that we already loved, a nostalgic toy that everyone's familiar with, something that reminds us of our childhood, something that reminds us of the past. There's something comforting about the past, memories, maybe wanting to like relive a feeling that you had in the past. I think Hollywood definitely tries to capitalize on that. Going along with that nostalgia, another reason for remakes is familiarity, not only in something from the past, but also just characters that you've grown to love. The audience doesn't have to go out of their way to get familiar with a new character or fall in love with.
And see, that's what I be trying to tell you. That's what I'm saying right there. You don't have to familiarize yourself or get comfortable or know or love. It reignites this feeling. Now, what I think is starting to stunt that though is because they kind of underdeliver a lot of times. We just went through all those videos, all those movies and things of that nature where it was flop after flop after flop after flop. And I don't think you can continue to get away with that for that long. I think that's where like a lot of people mess up at. That you can't do that. You can definitely not do that.
A new story. The audience is already invested in these characters. They have a history with them emotionally. So people in Hollywood are like, if we reboot it, there's gonna be people that want to see those characters come to life again. It brings comfort. I think that is kind of what Hollywood is thinking. And when studios invest in a remake, something that has worked in the past, that's a safer gamble than betting on something that has never been tried before. Studios invest millions and millions of dollars into films, and they want a return on their investment. When a franchise proves that it can bring in money, can bring in consumers. I mean, personally, for me, I would invest in that if I was trying to make my money back than something that's a no-name, and I kind of have to like take a gamble on whether I'm going to actually get my money back or if it's going to fail. Also, it's like when a studio owns the IP, why not just keep using it instead of having to buy something else? Another reason why studios might opt into a reboot is, well, one, according to Screen Rant, 65% of new shows get canceled within their first season. Thus, reboots can be a way of avoiding cancellation due to an already dedicated fan base. And I think that's why we see so many actors being recycled, our favorite performers being put in different shows, different movies, because again, Hollywood likes to work off that fandom, celebrities that people already love to try and attract audiences. It's that same thing. But
that's why you only see, and I make this statement all the time, you only have 3 famous black male actors at the same time, and then 3 famous black women actors at the same time. And we be stretching them out, all right? Denzel Washington is about 80 years old, but Denzel Washington probably has like 3 or 4 movies coming out in the next year or 2 just because he is such like a known face. And it's easier to sell a Denzel Washington flick than a Thomas Thomason flick. Like it really just is. Let me see what Denzel Washington got coming out in the next couple of years. Gladiator 2, and then The Piano Lesson. Okay, he's only a producer on The Piano Lesson, but yeah, that's why it seems like we only have 2 to 3 black actors at the same time. Denzel Washington, Will Smith, and Michael B. Jordan. That's it. That's all y'all get. Everybody else getting your B-list movies, man. Get your B-list ass and your B-list movies.
Even though these movies bring in viewers, I feel like it's pretty common for people to say that these remakes don't do the original justice, and remakes should have never happened in the first place. I definitely feel like that with a lot of things that are being remade. The original one was better, and you're just kind of tainting the IP with like overdoing it.
Here's people's reactions to the new Mean Girls movie that got rebooted and adapted from the Broadway musical.
I am not joking when
I don't have words.
It's the most terrible movie I have ever seen in my life.
Hey, yo.
This new Mean Girls failed to capture the magic of the original film from 20 years ago.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, it was so bad.
It has a musical note in there, though.
-5 stars. Not recommend.
It had a
What do
musical
you guys
note
think
in there.
about that? Do you like when things are remade? There's a lot of uproar about these remakes not being as good as the original, and why isn't there new content? And people are kind of frustrated with the film industry right
I don't have a problem myself when I don't have a problem when things are remade at all. Like I really don't, me personally. I think that I have a problem with the way that they go about remaking things. Mean Girls as a musical is like a crazy concept. And also I think that's why The Color Purple kind of flopped as well, is because people didn't think that it was going to be a musical. So that also makes it bad. But I think when you explore the expansive universes or opportunities that a product has, then it's easy to take, you know, familiar pieces and plug it into there. Kind of like Star Wars. Star Wars is this super expansive universe that could just have so many endless possibilities that are used in it. Transformers has so many endless possibilities. Kind of like the concept of Yu-Gi-Oh! Y'all remember even Pokemon. Pokemon just kept reinventing itself with, you know, familiar concepts and maybe a sprinkle of familiar faces, but it was a new season every single year. Okay. But these guys, I think part of the problem is that they rely too much on the original, as if the audience needs to be reminded of the original every 2 seconds in the movie. And then also they use that to uphold, you know, the bad storytelling, bad dialogue, bad everything of the current movie that's going on. They probably should do a little bit more to support the actual movie.
Right now, not only is Hollywood remaking movies, but they're bringing novels and book series to life on
I'm not
screen.
mad at this.
And actually, there's been a lot of things that have come out that I didn't know were adaptations from books. I thought they were original works. For example, Big Little Lies is based on a book. I was just rewatching that. Orange is the New Black is based on a memoir. Mean Girls is based on a book like Queen Bees and Wannabes. Like, that's how Tina Fey got inspired to write it. The Night Agent is based on a book. I don't know if this is common knowledge because I don't read.
I know that's
I don't
right.
read books.
Shouts out to
that
not reading.
I didn't know were adaptations. I thought they were just original works. So many stories are adapted. Taking an existing IP, an existing story, and remaking it into something new has always been around. I think we have to take a step back and kind of examine like the history of how the industry works and how this is not new.
Let's get into the meat and potatoes.
Some of the most famous classic movies of all time. Think about The Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz, that was based on a book. The Wizard of Oz was a 1933 film, and it was based on a children's fantasy novel called The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, which came out in the 1900s. Gone with the Wind was based on a novel.
Almost every Disney classic film is based on the Grimm's Book of Fairy Tales, which was a collection of folklore stories in the 19th century. Some of those tales include The Frog Prince, Hansel and Gretel, Rapunzel, Cinderella, Little Red Riding Hood, and Snow White. Since the genesis of Hollywood, it has adapted stories that are well known to the masses so that they can attract audiences.
Because that's and I want you to know that that's like easy. Think about them making movies back then when Snow White first came out. The only way to do any sort, come on, they were working on small budgets. We might even been talking about like close to Depression era stuff. We might even be talking about, we're talking about 1937 is when Snow White first came out. That's when the original Snow White came out. So we're talking about Depression era stuff. The only way to get something off like this is by saying to yourselves, you know what? Based on the 1812 German fairy tale by the Brothers Grimm, it's the first animated feature film in the United States and first cell animated film. The only way that you can get this off is by using a name of something that is world known. That is legitimately the only way that you can get this off. There is no other way that you can get this off. In order to cut down on your marketing budget, on your advertising, on all those things, the only way to get this off is by using something that everybody already knows. Simple as that.
Hollywood can see that, wow, like this was a best-selling novel or blah, blah, blah. It has a really huge fan base. We can attract that fan base to this new cinematic experience. Those characters coming to life on screen in a more immersive way with sound, with color, with visuals. So that's kind of the way I think just adaptations and remakes work from a business perspective, but let's talk about it from an artist perspective and a writing perspective. When a writer goes in and they want to adapt a previous work, they have to condense a novel, a long novel, into something that can fit into an hour, 2 hour long format, something that's more easily digestible, something that's quicker, and they have to tell that storyline in a different way with the same characters. So the writer's gonna pick and choose what they think is valuable from the novel, the themes that they like, and create something completely new.
Okay,
in
I
a
don't
way,
care
it's
about book
an rotation
adaptations,
for
though.
original works. Let's kind of talk about the idea of the original movie. If a writer has had a certain experience in real life or has met certain people in real life, they'll create characters from that.
We know how original movies are made.
Into their own.
What are your thoughts on
It's about the
reboots
same-
and
worked in
remakes?
a video store in Manhattan Beach, California. And every week I would do like a new theme. Films of Michael Parks, the films of Andre de Toth.
I'm a karate chopper.
That store was my one source of artistic expression.
All the movies he watched ended up informing his artistic voice and inspired the movies he ended up creating later on in his life.
Let me
Be
skip
different
there.
than the original, something upbeat, something heartfelt. And after that film, there will be another film that takes inspiration from The Color Purple. It might not be another The Color Purple movie, but it could be somebody who is like, man, I really like this theme about sisterhood that I saw from this film. Or I really like the idea of an all-black cast, you know, in a musical. I want to take that and I want to make something else. The artist is constantly going to previous works to figure out what they like, what inspires them, what ignites their passion for the craft. They take that and they make something else. So it's not only happening
she's
from
one of the best
a business
yappers in the
level,
game.
it's also happening at an artist level. That's how artists operate. I know I've been inspired by films and I'm like, man, one day I want to do something.
She's one of the top 5 yappers in the world. Look, I think she had some good points though. I think she has some good points. She touched on some good things. I don't think that remakes are inherently bad. I think that especially in a world in which there's so much out there to grab our attention, there's like literally so much out there that can draw us in to divert our attention into these different things, these buttons, these lights, these colors, all these different things. It is good to see a familiar something. It is good to see a familiar face. It's good to see a familiar character. It's good to see a familiar title. It's good to see a familiar brand. You know, even when I want to try something new, let's say that somebody says, you know, Omar, have you ever tried kale chips? Oh, I've never tried kale chips. The first thing I'm gonna do, if I've decided today I'm gonna try kale chips, I'm gonna go to some place that I find familiar. I'm familiar with Target. Okay, so what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna search and see if Target has kale chips. And I'm going to search kale chips, right? I'm on Target. I search up kale chips, and I get flooded with 50 brands of kale chips. And I am just overwhelmed. But what I'm going to do next is filter. I'm going to go to brands, and as soon as I see, oh, Kellogg's makes kale chips, boom, I'm going to check out Kellogg's kale chips at Target. Cool. There's nothing wrong with that right there. Familiarity is what gets people to get into the reboots and the remakes. I just think it's harder, especially with all this stuff going on, to get people to really, really get invested into new things. And not just regularly invested. I mean invested to where it's like this cult classic of an item. I honestly do not think we'll get another Grey's Anatomy. Do y'all know how long Grey's Anatomy has been on? I don't think we'll get to another Grey's Anatomy. Grey's Anatomy has been going on since 2005, 20 seasons. I just looked up Seinfeld, 9 seasons. Friends was on for 10 years. Frasier was on for 10 years. Curb Your Enthusiasm has been on since 2000. This year is the last season of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Everybody Loves Raymond, another 10 years. The Office, what is that? Little 7, 8, 9 years or something like that. 8 years. Oh, we can talk about black shows like that as well, even though black shows don't get the same leash. But I doubt that we'll get stretches of shows 10 years. I'm looking at the Cosby Show, 10 years, 10 plus years. Modern Family, 10 years. We won't get another show like that. Hell, we probably won't even get another movie series to stretch over the course of 10, 15 years. Do y'all know how long people waited for Star Wars? What are we really talking about? Do y'all know how long we waited for Star Wars? But you won't get that only because by the time the next comes out, our interest will be so filled with other things that it won't even matter. 10 to 15 to 20 things will catch our attention. I wonder how this new Planet of the Apes movie will do. Only because, when's the last time Planet of the Apes came out? Planet of the Apes, the last Planet of the Apes reboot film series. There was a Planet of the Apes in 2017, War of the Planet of the Apes, and then there's one in 2024. So we're talking about a little under 10 years later. And I know the Planet of the Apes movies were bangers, but all I'm saying in this conversation, and I just looked at Star Wars, I mean, when we talk about gaps, Star Wars, what was this? Episode 1 came out in 99. The next one was 2002, 2008, and then, oh no, I'm sorry. 2002 and then 2005. So many things will take over our mind and hold our minds hostage. By the time these things come out, it'll be hard to sell new or similar things to us. It'll be hard to sell reoccurring things. So it might even just be in the studio's best interest to continuously re-break familiar items until we get to, this big boom. Till we get to this big boom.